Upon seeing that the person was Blue Autumn Yun, Elegant Ling hurriedly shouted desperately. But the next second, Blue Autumn Yun's hand gently clenched. The fierce flames dispersed directly in all directions, then turned into small flames and disappeared on the ground. The man didn't even have a chance to be arrogant. I saw a figure walking out from the smoke. In an instant, his whole being was dumbfounded. Blue Autumn Yun said lightly, "You're quite arrogant, kid." As soon as the words fell, a foot directly landed on his chest. The speed was so fast that he couldn't defend himself at all. This terrifying scene made Tariff Fong shiver all over. That guy is even stronger than him. How could he be defeated by a newly joined disciple? He didn't pay any attention to Blue Autumn Yun and prepared to sneak attack him from behind. But all that awaited him was a spinning kick. He kicked him directly next to Silent He. The two of them lay together. Two foundation stage cultivators were actually beaten down by a newcomer who had just entered the door. This was such an embarrassing rumor to spread. The woman in red was just about to make her move. But she found that the young man had appeared in front of her at some point. Then she felt a strong gust of wind, which directly blew her away. Blue Autumn Yun then used Wind Blade to chop off 3 sections of bamboo. With a wave of his hand, he neatly hung them on a tree. Wrongdoers will eventually meet their retribution, as the saying goes. The horrifying scene stunned the two sisters. They returned home still finding it hard to believe all that had happened during the day. It was unbelievable that Blue Autumn Yun from Cultivate had such terrifying power, effortlessly defeating 3 experts at the foundation stage. This woman carries the ancient inheritance of the heavenly spirit body. Now, she has been marked with the dual cultivation mark by a junior disciple who has just joined the cultivation sect. After being hailed as an immortal venerable, Blue Autumn Yun is undefeated in battle. She has already forgotten the feeling of being protected. It was not until Elegant Ling stood up for herself that she recalled that warmth. Watching the woman clean his clothes for him, he couldn't help but sigh at how good it felt to be taken care of. Blue Autumn Yun looked up, just about to say something. But she saw Elegant Ling looking drowsy, as if she could fall at any moment. Blue Autumn Yun hurried forward and held her in her arms, then carefully felt the golden spiritual energy aura. But when he discerned it, he was startled. It turned out to be the legendary heavenly spirit body. Blue Autumn Yun was shocked and quickly picked her up, then placed her on the bed. Sealed with a strand of spiritual energy, afraid of causing any abnormal signs in heaven and earth, he looked at Elegant Ling who was sleeping peacefully with her eyes closed, feeling a bit silly. This kind of physique is an extremely rare innate constitution from ancient times. Those who possess this constitution are protected by the will of heaven. In the end, there is no one who does not cultivate to the peak of the cultivation world and become a renowned immortal venerable. If Blue Autumn Yun had this kind of physique, she might have ascended 2,000 years ago. But now Elegant Ling awakened too early. Her current body can hardly bear it. Blue Autumn Yun thought about it afterwards. Then he removed the outer garment from Elegant Ling. The girl's skin is delicate, smooth, and very youthful, and appealingly green. Blue Autumn Yun didn't have time to appreciate it though. A silver-white light lit up in her hand. Afterwards, a spiritual array was arranged all over the woman's body. Once confirmed to be correct, Blue Autumn Yun activated the array using spiritual energy. Elegant Ling suddenly felt a rush of heat all over her body. She felt a strange tingling sensation stimulating her limbs, reaching deep into her soul. The woman impulsively hugged Blue Autumn Yun's neck. Some unknown things happened afterwards. What happened? This section is omitted for 1,000 characters. Blue Autumn Yun pushed her onto the bed. After controlling her heartbeat, Blue Autumn Yun quickly bent down to inspect the array. Mark, who hadn't taken a look yet, was startled when he saw it. The pattern on the array turned out to be his own spiritual sigil. This is something only cultivating couples who practice dual cultivation would have each other's spiritual sigil. But he and Elegant Ling haven't done anything. Blue Autumn Yun sat on the steps of the courtyard. With a piece of grass in her mouth, she contemplated life. After being single for 10,000 years, suddenly there was a dual cultivation cultivating couple, and they both possessed their own spiritual sigils. Because this type of spiritual sigil is extremely difficult to obtain. Even for a cultivating couple who have been together for 1,000 years, the probability is extremely slim. Not to mention forcefully seizing one. Only by obtaining the recognition and blessing of the heavens will one be branded with a spiritual sigil, and after possessing a spiritual sigil. When the two engage in dual cultivation, the spiritual energy they obtain will also increase tenfold. This spiritual sigil cannot be betrayed. The body cannot be touched by any man other than the one with the spiritual sigil. This is a constraint from the heavens that cannot be changed by strength. What puzzled Blue Autumn Yun even more is that this spiritual sigil is unilateral. He does not have Elegant Ling's spiritual sigil. It is just Elegant Ling's unilateral recognition of himself. In other words, Elegant Ling will only belong to him in the future. Isn't this clearly heading towards a harem situation? Although Blue Autumn Yun was pleased, he still couldn't help but ridicule. How would he explain it if Elegant Ling discovers that he has his own spiritual sigil in the future? This man has just joined the sect and has already planted the dual cultivation mark for the future genius. Having such a spiritual sigil will be bound by the will of heaven. From now on, she can only love Blue Autumn Yun and cannot love anyone else. At the same time, Elegant Ling knows nothing about the matter of spiritual sigil. She had a strange dream. She dreamed that she married Blue Autumn Yun, doing untellable things on a large bed. The dream was extremely realistic. She was completely dumbfounded. She also didn't understand why she had such a dream. She was stunned for quite a while even after waking up. Upon checking again, there were no red petals on the bedsheet. And she was still a virgin herself. She then put on clothes and walked towards the door. But when Blue Autumn Yun outside the house saw her, she suddenly froze. The woman seemed to have undergone a transformation overnight. At this moment, she was like a budding green lotus, graceful and ethereal like a celestial being. Elegant Ling didn't say a word and threw herself into his arms. The uncontrollable images in her mind still lingered. This made her heart beat very fast. Blue Autumn Yun noticed the woman's expression. In his heart, he also realized that his spiritual sigil had begun to worship. But he had no choice. Who made this the destiny given by the heavens? In the following days, Elegant Ling dreamt every day. Every time she thinks about it, she feels hot all over. She wishes she could dig a hole and hide in it. Even though they grew up together as childhood sweethearts. But the name she called herself was just too embarrassing. In the past few days, Blue Autumn Yun has become increasingly weak. Due to the connection with the spiritual sigil, his spiritual energy and vital energy are drained every day through the link with Elegant Ling. Although his immortal venerable primordial spirit is extremely powerful, his physical body is just too weak. Blue Autumn Yun had no choice but to take out time to continue the boring cultivation of the physical body. And senior sister Mu has already been angered to tears by Elegant Ling. 3 days have completed her 1-year cultivation journey. Who can bear this? After dinner, Elegant Ling took Blue Autumn Yun to the library pavilion of the cultivation sect. Blue Autumn Yun is not particularly interested in this place. But Elegant Ling can't stay away from him for a moment. Seeing the woman looking intoxicated, Blue Autumn Yun understood the girl's thoughts. He has the same moral character as his female disciple. When he first entered the sect, he kept pestering Blue Autumn Yun for various beauty cultivation methods. But he became honest after Blue Autumn Yun gave him a spanking. Unknowingly, 1,000 years have passed. She has also become the stunning sword venerable known to all in the cultivation world. Time flies like a white horse passing a crevice. Thinking about it can't help but feel a bit sighful. When the two people walked to the library pavilion, all the male disciples suddenly brightened up. Later, they couldn't help but exclaim about the fact that in the cultivation sect, there was such a pure and beautiful female cultivator. Some people have even planned out the names for their future children. But when they saw the woman's arms linked with the young man next to her, they instantly cast various hateful glances towards Blue Autumn Yun. Blue Autumn Yun was speechless. She couldn't understand what these group of brats were thinking. Look at their grinning faces, like a bunch of little dogs. Blue Autumn Yun stopped unhappily. Have you ever bullied small animals? Elegant Ling looked puzzled. What does this mean? Blue Autumn Yun smirked and scanned fellow disciples. Then today I'll teach you how to bully single dogs. This young man just joined the sect and kissed the immortal maiden that everyone dreams of. He completely ignored the barking of various arrogant dogs around him. And Xiao Su is responsible for registering the borrowing of books at the library pavilion. He often uses his privilege to flirt with girls. He wouldn't let a beauty like Elegant Ling slip away. Just as Blue Autumn Yun was frolicking with a woman, he immediately rushed up. Blinded by lust after taking a closer look, he reached out to harass the woman. Although everyone was unhappy, no one dared to step forward to stop him. If he offends him, he will never be able to borrow the spirit technique in the future. At this moment, Blue Autumn Yun grabbed the offending hand. Didn't this senior brother notice that the girl was very unhappy with you? If you were tactful, you should have left. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's face changed drastically. Xiao Su was even more surprised. A young man dressed in new clothes dared to be so arrogant. Young man, do you dare to tell me your name? Blue Autumn Yun set out his alias. Everyone was surprised when they heard this. Isn't this the newly born genius who possesses 2 variation spiritual roots? Although Xiao Su was very annoyed after hearing this, he also harbored some fear due to his background. But this new disciple didn't give him any face at all. In order to save face, Xiao Su had to take action. He immediately clenched his fist and rushed over. Blue Autumn Yun, however, showed no intention of dodging at all. She just slightly raised her arm and took this strong and powerful blow. The onlookers were all stunned, mouths wide open in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. Even little Elegant beside them was filled with a worried look in their eyes. Only Xiao Su's face was full of disbelief. How could this be possible? Although he knew that Blue Autumn Yun was strong, he did not expect her to be this strong. But things had come to this point. He had no choice but to brace himself and charge up again. But what greeted him this time was a well-calculated heavy blow. He was hit hard, and was forced back several meters on the spot. Blue Autumn Yun lightly brushed off the dust on his body. Senior brother, haven't you eaten? Why are you attacking so weakly? There is no strength at all. Xiao Su was full of shame and indignation at this time. As an elite direct disciple, he was defeated by a newcomer. This is simply a great humiliation. He was so angry that he didn't care about anything else. He quickly stood up. As spiritual energy spread, ice-made long swords formed all around him, swiftly flying towards Blue Autumn Yun. The onlookers were shocked and alarmed. Is second-rank spirit technique water sword technique senior brother Su trying to kill Blue Autumn Yun? In an instant, dozens of water swords shuttled to Blue Autumn Yun's side. He saw him clasping his hands together, emitting a faint blue spiritual energy, with a faint image of an ancient tree looming around him. The blue wood technique, which he was proud of, was instantly shattered. Before Xiao Su could react, he then launched the whirling wind palm again, pushing Xiao Su's figure back continuously, until the book covered him, just as little Elegant rushed over to check on Blue Autumn Yun. Ariel Mu also happened to arrive. Seeing that the two of them were fine, she felt relieved. At the same time, the third elder, who had heard the commotion, also hurried over. He dispersed all the disciples. He was very interested in the aptitude of the two, so he took them to test. The Blue Emperor finally managed to become a disciple of the little sect. However, every test required finding ways to suppress the cultivation level to the lowest. Any slight negligence would lead to terrifying incidents. The second elder was quite interested in Blue Autumn Yun's aptitude. Since he became an elder, he had never seen anyone who could use the low-level spirit technique to such a high level. Moreover, there were rumors circulating that this kid had mastered the wind control technique. Various signs indicated that this new disciple had outstanding talent. It's really a pity that he was placed under the hands of Elder Xuanji. He needs to help investigate them well. Second Elder asked Ariel Mu to experiment with them. Ariel Mu came to the tree despondently. As expected, she was still a woman with a big chest and no brain. Just a level D aptitude. Aptitude is ranked from high to low as A, B, C, D, E. Being at level D after 5 years is almost the worst in the cultivation sect. However, Ariel Mu is not his disciple. Calming didn't say much either. Elegant Ling thinks she has only been introduced for a few days. How could she compare to senior sister? But it turns out she is actually a level C aptitude disciple, which is what most disciples at the foundation stage achieve after enhancing their understanding through cultivating. And Elegant Ling has already surpassed them after just 1 month of initiation. Most disciples in the cultivation sect who have been practicing immortal cultivation for several years can't compare. She truly deserves the title of a genius with triple spiritual roots. Second Elder always thought of himself as a diligent and devoted teacher worthy of respect in the eyes of all disciples. Unfortunately, he couldn't help but envy the good fortune of Fourth Elder. He was so bitter that he sat on the ground and drew circles to curse you directly. Only Blue Autumn Yun understands at this moment. This silly girl's talent is not just that. Only this spirit testing tree can't probe into it. It's just about the heavenly spirit body level. Second Elder smoothed over the resentment in his heart. Next up is Blue Autumn Yun. Elegant Ling is looking forward to it very much. He believed that in front of the spirit testing tree, even if Blue Autumn Yun wanted to hide it, she couldn't hide it. Blue Autumn Yun sighed, quickly compressing his spiritual vein again. He had finally managed to stay peacefully in the little sect and flirt with the girls. If he scared them, it would all be over. But the moment he put his hand on top of it, the spirit testing tree seemed to be stimulated. Instantly, the entire hall was filled with its bright light. The scene before them was too horrifying. Ariel Mu was surprised and at a loss. Elegant Ling stupidly said, "So cool." If it weren't for his profound cultivation level, Second Elder almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood. Holy cow, this is actually level B aptitude. Blue Autumn Yun has already reached the highest aptitude because the spirit testing tree's level A can only be reached by those at the spirit gathering stage or above. Level B aptitude is the highest privilege that disciples can obtain. Basically, they can access all cultivation methods and spirit techniques in the entire library pavilion. Even the so-called once-in-a-century genius Moon Han from the cultivation sect took only 2 years to reach level B. For words, terrifyingly impressive. The shining trees were stunned for a moment. He had clearly restrained himself at the cost of his life. Why did it still happen like this? After he withdrew his hand, the entire tree was still shining. Blue Autumn Yun almost couldn't help but kick it off. Impulse is the devil. He quickly told Elder that if it's over, and he still wants to go back for lunch. As an Elder, he certainly knew what the initial level B meant. The nascent soul stage, and even the terrifying void-piercing stage, can completely lead the cultivation sect out of the confines of a city. Such major matters cannot be delayed. They must be reported to the cultivation sect immediately. He informed Blue Autumn Yun before leaving that the aptitude tree would automatically drop the corresponding credentials. Just a short wait. Not long after the Elder left, the entire spirit testing tree suddenly burst into a flash. All the leaves lit up instantly, and a level A credential fell into Blue Autumn Yun's hands. Blue Autumn Yun was frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. Hastily, he concealed the leaf representing the level A aptitude in his sleeve. He breathed a sigh of relief only when Elegant Ling and Ariel Mu did not notice. This disciple was taken to test his aptitude by the Elder shortly after joining the sect. Although he had been trying hard to suppress his own cultivation level, he was still awarded a level A jade plaque. Taking advantage of no one's attention, he quickly hid the jade plaque. As the light shimmered on the leaves, Elegant Ling's badge fell slowly. Blue Autumn Yun caught it, and handed the level C jade plaque to her. Then, they discussed about going to find some cultivation methods. Although Ariel Mu's aptitude does not qualify her to go to B area and C area. However, this does not affect Blue Autumn Yun's ability to bring back all the cultivation methods they want. Ariel Mu paused for a moment, then slowly raised her head, after receiving a positive response. Even more directly, she raised her arm and hugged Blue Autumn Yun's neck to express her joy. This scene happened extremely suddenly, leaving Elegant Ling standing rooted to the spot in exasperation. He quickly arrived at the library pavilion. Blue Autumn Yun closed her eyes and recalled the scene just now. She felt like she had walked into heaven. I wonder who will be lucky enough to marry this little senior sister. He shook his head vigorously to dispel that ambiguous scene. Then he looked down at the note in his hand. It recorded the cultivation method they both wanted. He curiously opened the cultivation method. Jade body technique, refines body, loses weight, and beautifies. White lotus method, whitens the skin, removes scars, and eliminates body hair. Blue Autumn Yun almost spits out blood. It's no wonder the two women urgently urged him to hurry. All this fuss is just to become more attractive. He continued to look down. Enchantment Fox secret increases charm to enhance attraction to male cultivators. Soul hooked invisibly with 72 practical illustrated postures for dual cultivation. Blue Autumn Yun suddenly blushed. I don't know who chose this cultivation method in the end. After criticizing herself internally for a while, Blue Autumn Yun secretly remembered the name of the cultivation method. Such a good cultivation method must be brought back and studied carefully. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly caught sight of a strange bookshelf. The other bookshelves were almost full, but only this particular bookshelf in front of him stored a single spirit technique. Although it looks like a piece of junk, since it's in the B area, even a fool would know that this thing is not ordinary. And it's placed so ostentatiously. This made him somewhat curious. He hadn't even come close to the bookshelf when a wave-like barrier rippled. It seems that borrowing is only allowed once the cultivation level reaches a certain degree. However, this barrier naturally couldn't stop Blue Autumn Yun with just a light touch. The barrier slowly faded away. He immediately picked it up and started reading. It's a pity that it's a fragment, but even though it's incomplete, it won't affect cultivation. So he decided to take it back and give it to Little Elegant. At the same time, on the cultivation sect square, dozens of disciples were still sweating profusely, with the sound of bursting spiritual energy and martial skills echoing in their ears. Just then, a graceful figure suddenly appeared in the air. The appearance is like a painting with extraordinary temperament. It's as if an immortal maiden has stepped out of a painting. Her arrival instantly attracted the attention of many male cultivators. She came this time to retrieve the spirit technique from the shelf. This man has never cultivated since joining the sect. But even his fart can cause a stir in the cultivation sect. All the Immortal Maidens take great care of him. He lies on the Immortal Maiden's big white legs every day, enjoying a comfortable massage. Eating the watermelon handed over by senior sister feels so uncomfortable. Now even Moon Han, considered a goddess by countless male cultivators, has set her sights on Blue Autumn Yun. Moon Han, as the future sect master heir, is extremely fascinated by cultivation. She broke through the core formation stage after practicing diligently for 3 months to unseal the spirit technique. But when she returned to the bookshelf, she found it empty. Very few disciples could reach this level, and after careful investigation, she found nothing. She then went to the place where records were kept. When the man here saw that it was Moon Han Immortal Maiden, he nervously almost dropped the pen in his hand. Moon Han asked him who had come to this level recently. The brave can only answer truthfully. It is a disciple named Blue Autumn Yun from Verdant Mist Peak. Moon Han has never heard of this person since joining the sect. Could it be a low-key genius? Upon hearing Moon Han's question, the disciple nervously responded, Blue Autumn Yun is a new disciple who joined this year. When these words were spoken, Moon Han was completely dumbfounded. How could a new disciple enter the B area? Could it be that some elder brought them in? The disciple stuttered as he recounted the previous events. After listening, Moonhan found it incredible. To defeat an elder's direct disciple within a month of joining the sect, who exactly is this Blue Autumn Yun? This suddenly sparked a lot of interest in Moonhan, who has always been indifferent to worldly affairs. Thus, he had the idea to take a look at this mysterious young man. At the same time, Blue Autumn Yun is enjoying family joys. Under the setting sun, an immortal maiden is giving a knee pillow massage. An immortal maiden is feeding fruits. Blue Autumn Yun remembered the words of the senior predecessors in immortal cultivation. The path of immortal cultivation is to experience all kinds of hardships in pursuit of the great way. It's all nonsense. Life now is much better than back then. Those suffering immortal venerables are worse off. On the other side, Moonhan was lost in thought. Unconsciously, she arrived at Verdant Mist Peak, feeling somewhat excited to finally meet that extraordinary talent. She wondered what he looked like. Just as Moonhan was about to descend, unexpectedly, a sweet and untimely sound came from below. It sounded just like what would come from. Moonhan blushed and looked down. She thought Blue Autumn Yun was a serious and traditional immortal cultivator. She never expected him to be a romantic wanderer indulging in the midst of the 100 flowers. The difference was just too great. This situation made her very embarrassed. So she turned around and planned to visit again next time. Blue Autumn Yun was almost drained dry by the two girls. He suddenly noticed a cultivator named Sword Control on the horizon. As if seeing a savior, he quickly pointed towards the sky and said, "Who is that?" This made Moonhan, who was just about to fly away, awkwardly come to a halt. She deeply exhaled. It was like the arrival of the Immortal Maiden when she jumped down from the sky. Ariel Mu was shocked when she saw the newcomer. She quickly made a respectful bow. "Senior Sister Moonhan, may I ask what instructions you have for coming to Verdant Mist Peak?" Blue Autumn Yun and Elegant Ling exchanged a glance. Is this the rumored candidate for the future sect master of cultivation sect, Moonhan? Because Moonhan is extremely obsessed with cultivation and rarely shows up. But why did he suddenly appear here today? Ariel Mu is extremely nervous. They have quite a gap in both status and cultivation level. It's really hard to guess why she suddenly appeared at Verdant Mist Peak. She prayed that nothing major would happen. Moonhan is not one to beat around the bush. After some consideration, she still believed that it's better to be direct. She approached Blue Autumn Yun and asked directly, "You must be the new junior brother, Blue Autumn Yun, right?" Blue Autumn Yun nodded. He wondered why the beautiful woman mentioned his name. But the next second, the woman said, "Blue Autumn Yun, I have some private matters to discuss with you. Can we chat in that grove over there?" Fast grasped the key words. What private matters require catching up in the grove? She doesn't know when Blue Autumn Yun started having an affair. This senior sister, who is as beautiful as a flower, doesn't even know. The unparalleled Immortal Maiden frequently invites young men to the small grove. It's strange if childhood sweethearts don't get jealous. Although Elegant Ling had a smile on her face, Blue Autumn Yun could clearly feel the anger emanating from her. Even though he really didn't do anything and didn't know this Immortal Maiden, but still immediately bowed to present her with a good person card. Let her explain the situation here. Moonhan nodded slightly and informed him of the purpose of his visit this time. Because she was very interested in the spirit technique mentioned, she wanted to ponder it together with Blue Autumn Yun. At this moment, Elegant Ling was full of jealousy. She directly reached out and twisted his arm. She really had been careless. She didn't even know when he had captured the Immortal Maiden's heart. Blue Autumn Yun was also at a loss for words. She didn't wait for him to speak. Elegant Ling then raised her head and chest proudly, took out the spirit technique book, and told her that she was in the middle of studying it and couldn't lend it out. She asked her to leave if she had nothing else to do. Moonhan was not angry at all. He even nodded understandingly. The next moment, she invited Blue Autumn Yun once again to go to the small forest with her, wanting to see his skills. Blue Autumn Yun was scared by her words. Even Ariel Mu next to him got goosebumps. Little Elegant beside them clenched his fists tightly. Even her smile had a cold touch to it. It seemed like she was on the edge of exploding. In the midst of the conversation, she slowly picked up her arms.
"Senior sister, if you feel like fighting, I can accompany you,"
she said. Blue Autumn Yun was sweating profusely and momentarily at a loss. Moon Han immediately agreed. The two women soon arrived at the open space. For the sake of fairness, Moon Han voluntarily suppressed his cultivation level to the same level. If Elegant Ling's eyelids droop, then Little Elegant is in trouble. After speaking, Elegant Ling darted out like a cunning rabbit. The azure spiritual energy turned into a watery film, rapidly solidifying into a water blade that surged straight towards Moon Han. Moon Han slightly dodged to the side to evade the water blade. The cold light, that made a sharp sound as it passed, suddenly exploded. Then, the fast water blade quickly decomposed into small water droplet daggers, all shooting together. Moon Han quickly bent backwards to continue dodging. She couldn't help but be a little surprised. If it weren't for her rich combat experience and sharp senses, she might have really been hit. She couldn't help but show more interest and became a bit more serious. Moon Han instantly threw a horizontal kick. Elegant Ling crossed her hands. Spiritual energy condensed on her arms, although she blocked this attack. But she was still pushed back several meters by the hit. Before she could react, Moon Han began to gather crimson spiritual energy once again and launched an attack. Elegant Ling's eyes sharpened. She was well aware that even if she dodged the first punch, there would be another strike coming. If not handled properly, she would undoubtedly be heavily injured. One is the glamorous and proud Immortal Maiden, while the other is the pure and lovely childhood sweetheart. And at this moment, they are actually fighting fiercely over a young man. Facing the fierce attacks from Moon Han, Immortal Maiden, Elegant Ling is not willing to show weakness either. She immediately adjusts herself and adopts a strong stance, advancing instead of retreating. Although Moon Han was very surprised by Elegant Ling's actions, he still charged ahead. Suddenly, a breaking sound rang out. A strong air current directly pulled the two people apart. Moon Han paused slightly. Whirling wind palm detonates spiritual energy before contact, then deliberately pushes oneself out. Indeed smart. The two women's figures intertwined and fought continuously. For a moment, it was really difficult to determine the outcome. The battle escalated. Elegant Ling formed hand seals, and spiritual energy rippled like waves. Faintly, there was a sound of thunder contained within. Moon Han smiled lightly. I saw her raise her left arm. She also used the thunder pattern technique. Just as the two were about to collide, Blue Autumn Yun rushed in between them. She grabbed their wrists with both hands. She pulled Elegant Ling into her arms and embraced her, gently pushing Moon Han away. She stopped the fight between the two. Moon Han didn't say much. The small refinement stage was enough to make her feel pressured. This made her even more curious about Blue Autumn Yun's strength. Seeing that time was no longer early, she briefly said a few words and then returned to Cloud's ascending peak. That night, Elegant Ling tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. Clearly, he had been worried that the silly young man would never find a wife. But suddenly, a woman started interacting with him, which made herself incredibly jealous. The feeling is like working hard to grow radishes for over a decade, only to have someone else pull them out. She secretly resolved to get closer to Blue Autumn Yun. She was always on guard against any unscrupulous individuals appearing. Early the next morning, Elegant Ling changed her clothes and stood in front of Blue Autumn Yun. Her delicate and beautiful face instantly dispelled his drowsiness. Following Elegant Ling, he arrived at the square of cultivation sect to cultivate. Blue Autumn Yun helped and guided her intentionally or unintentionally. It's just since the two of them appeared, the other fellow disciples have been practicing half-heartedly. Many male cultivators occasionally glance at the pure and lovely young girl, feeling extremely envious and admiring, just as everyone was feeling melancholic. Suddenly, There was a commotion coming from behind. Is that the Moonhan Immortal Maiden? Even more beautiful than the rumors. My goodness. Am I really not dreaming? The crowd slowly dispersed to make way for Moonhan, staring straight at the goddess of the cultivation sect. Moonhan ignored everyone and headed straight for the edge of the square. Elegant Ling, on the other hand, quickly guarded Blue Autumn Yun with a vigilant look on her face. Moonhan quickly walked up to the two of them. She suddenly spoke. Blue Autumn Yun, last night, I stayed awake half the night pondering. Indeed, I am still very interested in you. Although I was very unhappy in my heart. But there was still a faint smile on my face. Blue Autumn, what do you think? This stunning immortal maiden actually said in front of everyone that she was interested in a new member of a cultivation sect. When these words were spoken, the entire square was in an uproar with hundreds of people. She is considered the goddess of the cultivation sect. It's surprising that she has fallen for this person. Elegant Ling also smiled faintly, quietly waiting for his response. Blue Autumn Yun's mouth twitched slightly. He felt that there must be something fishy about this. So he turned his head and asked Moonhan's senior sister what she was up to. Moonhan pointed indifferently to the side. There's nothing wrong with following me to that small grove for a chat. Seeing the anger on Elegant Ling's body, not decreasing but increasing, Blue Autumn Yun asked her to speak directly. Moonhan contemplated for a moment. I visited you without success last night. I want to try again now, is that okay? As soon as these words were spoken, all the male cultivators present felt their heads buzzing. The sound of cracking could be heard from their hearts. Holy cow, does Moonhan Immortal Maiden really want to sacrifice herself to him? Blue Autumn Yun couldn't stand it anymore. She immediately agreed to spar with her. He rolled up his sleeves as he spoke and took a step forward in front of Moonhan. Moonhan was slightly stunned. She took the initiative to lower her cultivation level to the same level. Blue Autumn Yun had already made up her mind the moment she agreed. If all she had to do was test her own strength, then so be it. After he suppressed all of his spiritual energy, Blue Autumn Yun tensed her body and threw a punch. Moonhan looked serious, treating her as an equal in the battle. Flames quickly ignited on her palm, rapidly solidifying with the infusion of spiritual energy. Transforming into one dagger after another, they shot towards the target. Blue Autumn Yun naturally had to put on a little show as well. Wind blades spread outward in the midst of changing handprints. Explosions of green smoke burst out when the two collided. At that moment, Moonhan's figure suddenly flashed in front of Blue Autumn Yun. He then unleashed a frenzy of attacks upon him, while Blue Autumn Yun continued to expand wind blades to intercept the attacks. At one point, Moonhan was forced to defend passively. Nevertheless, she was extremely excited. This junior brother had indeed mastered the wind control technique as rumored. At this moment, Moonhan kept swinging his wooden sword, continuously shattering the wind blades. He engaged in close combat with Blue Autumn Yun, and both sides fought fiercely. At this point, Moonhan became more and more excited as he fought. With your strength at the foundation stage, you should be able to handle it as well. He immediately launched an attack towards him after saying that. Immediately after, there came a sturdy sense of hitting in the hands. Blue Autumn Yun flew out like a kite with a broken string, fell heavily to the ground. Moonhan left everyone dumbfounded at the moment. It was just a gentle push without any bonus. It's impossible to hit at all. On the other hand, Blue Autumn Yun sat on the ground and gave her a thumbs up. Senior Sister Han is indeed amazing, I have lost. Moonhan stared at her hand, stunned in place. She never expected the battle to end like this. This newcomer from the cultivation sect is too mysterious. It even attracted the proud daughter of heaven to come challenge. But the man just wants to quietly flirt with girls. He spared no effort to prepare for this defeat. If he lost directly, the woman would definitely not believe it. So he deliberately engaged in a back and forth with her, repeatedly testing the boundaries in a certain edge. After the battle ended, Elegant Ling hurried over and hugged Blue Autumn Yun. Moonhan, feeling apologetic, took out the advanced spiritual elixir Crystal Lotus Dew for healing external wounds. Then she turned around to leave. Before departing, she left a message.
If there are any questions, you can find me at Cloud's Ascending Peak. I will take full responsibility.
After returning, Elegant Ling cooked chicken soup to nourish his body. When thinking of Blue Autumn Yun being injured, she really didn't feel good. In the following days, Elegant Ling has been diligently studying the fragmented technique. Ariel Mu was also very surprised that Elegant Ling could resist the temptation of the nourishing spirit technique. She was deeply touched. So she delved even more seriously into the nourishing cultivation method. Meanwhile, Blue Autumn Yun was once again persecuted, as Little Elegant had to absorb his spiritual energy every day during practice. At this rate, I'm afraid his frail body will be scrapped in less than 2 days. That night, under the cover of darkness, Blue Autumn Yun arrived at a secluded place. After repeatedly confirming that there was no one around, he carefully set up a spiritual array around him. The mind power spread to the distant void land to communicate with the sacred beast bound by the soul covenant for summoning. Then, a beam of light connected the spiritual array with the dark clouds. The majestic and magnificent shadow of the spiritual beast gradually emerged. Dozens of thunderbolts roared one after another. In an instant, it was as bright as day. Just then, a petite figure walked out. A girl with a Lolita appearance blinked her big eyes as she stood there. Blue Autumn Yun was speechless. He clearly summoned the big boss. How did he end up with this useless character? He closed his eyes and formed hand seals, intending to send the person away again. The girl looked around and happened to meet Blue Autumn Yun's eyes as she turned around. Her eyes slowly widened, sparkling with bright light and surprise. Although the man didn't look like what she remembered her master to be, she still recognized him based on his scent. Shushu happily moved closer to Blue Autumn Yun. He asked where you had been all these days. Cultivation Sect and Little Master are also frantically searching everywhere. Blue Autumn Yun punched Shushu's face into a swollen mess. Going back is impossible. He will never go back in this lifetime. Soon he sat cross-legged and extended his arms. Let her help herself check her physical condition. Subtle greenish-blue ripples gradually emanated from the petite figure. The greenish-blue color spread to Blue Autumn Yun upon contact, wrapping both individuals. Intricate and complex vein-like patterns gradually appeared on his body. The subtle sounds from all parts of the body gradually amplified in Shushu's ears. In just a moment, he completely grasped all the conditions of the body. The most powerful immortal cultivation practitioner inadvertently underwent soul transmigration as a young man. But unexpectedly, this body was actually forced to have intercourse with a demon monster and died as a result. The body itself was already very weak, while the primordial spirit was exceptionally strong. In addition, there is constant occasional absorption through the contract. This only exacerbates the loss of vitality. Blue Autumn Yun had no choice but to summon the sacred beast. Shushu closed his eyes and slowly sensed his physical condition. Her brows furrowed, her expression became more serious. After pondering for a while, she slowly spoke up.
Are you a human or a ghost?
Blue Autumn Yun slapped her on the head and said,
I'm your big brother.
Through Shushu's recent probing, she felt that this body was like an empty shell. There is not much vitality. It doesn't even seem alive at all. And the spiritual roots of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth that this body originally possessed were forcibly taken away. The yang energy inside the body has almost diminished completely. It can be concluded that it was forcibly taken away during sexual intercourse by a female monster. In theory, the body should have been completely scrapped. However, due to Blue Autumn Yun's soul transmigration primordial spirit, some vitality has been restored as if a withered tree has encountered spring. But recently, there is another strange power that is continuously draining life force. This has exacerbated the depletion of life. Blue Autumn Yun's expression is gradually becoming serious. It seems that a solution must be found. Just at this moment, Shushu suddenly bowed respectfully. Immediately patting his chest, he assured his master, "Don't worry, as long as I absorb her, it can alleviate the crisis for the time being." Blue Autumn Yun immediately threw a jade bottle from his arms to her. Then he waved his hand. He didn't want to use saliva to treat injuries. Let Shushu try another method. Shushu's originally serious face showed a hint of blush. This doesn't seem quite right. Blue Autumn Yun rolled up his sleeves to intimidate with force. "I have raised you for 5,000 years. Just because I am asking for a small favor, you dare to refuse?" Shushu blushed and fidgeted for a while. In the end, she agreed. There was a hint of determination in her eyes. Well, if she had to go, she would go. She seemed about to take action. Blue Autumn Yun almost jumped up in frustration, grabbing and rubbing Shushu's small face, squeezing it continuously. "You dare to call yourself a sacred beast? Even sacred beast can be misunderstood," he scolded in a stern voice. "Who the hell said that the vermilion bird's bodily fluids are only that thing? Give me some blood." She put her fingers to her mouth and bit a hole, then carefully dripped it into the jade bottle. Then she handed it to the master. Shortly after, Blue Autumn Yun took out a scroll from her sleeve. "Let her write down the medicinal herb she needs." Shushu's fingers slid through the air a few times. The scroll immediately filled with densely packed words. After confirming there were no errors, Shushu rolled up the scroll, handed it back to Blue Autumn Yun. She cautiously said, "At the moment, Little Master has dispatched 10,000 cultivators to find you, and each one is equipped with a complete set of spiritual artifacts, claiming not to let go of a single inch. They want to see a person in life and a corpse in death." When this was said, Blue Autumn Yun shivered instantly. Holy cow, does Little White have to be so stubborn? He followed Shushu's finger and looked up. There were indeed a few sword-empowered flight practitioners among the clouds. The formidable cultivator was looking around. He lowered his head, lost in thought. He was afraid that he would have to be even more careful in hiding his identity in the future. He was originally a new disciple who had just joined the sect, but unexpectedly awakened the double spiritual root of variation. Even though he had used all his strength to suppress his cultivation level, he still could not escape the recognition of the aptitude tree. The elders are determined to make him shine and bring glory to his ancestors. But he just wants to quietly flirt with girls. Since that day, the third elder witnessed Blue Autumn Yun's aptitude determination results. He decided to immediately return to the cultivation sect to inform them of this matter. At this moment, he has already gathered all the elders together. The conversation still seemed a bit heated. He thought it over and couldn't help but feel that they had underestimated this newcomer that day. Recently, Blue Autumn Yun not only learned the wind control technique, but also defeated Xiao Su by surpassing his level. Even tested to have level B aptitude. Through his outstanding performance, the third elder couldn't help but suspect that this kid may have already found a way to break through the constraints of the twin spiritual root variation. And the second elder expressed dissatisfaction with this. He believed that the wind control technique was originally suitable for those with wind element spiritual root to cultivate, and that the kid had just stumbled upon it by chance. As for his disciple Xiao Su who defeated him, it was completely due to that fool's carelessness. As for the spirit testing tree, it is only set up for ordinary disciples. There must be many deviations compared to the variation spiritual root. The third elder was left speechless by his words. Just then, Moonhan walked in. She quickly bowed to everyone. Recently, she encountered a barrier in her cultivation. Due to the lack of opportunities for a breakthrough, she decided to exit seclusion ahead of schedule. The sect master was overjoyed at the news. Presumably, she is on the verge of breaking through to the core formation middle stage. To achieve this level in just 2 years since joining. Truly worthy of being one's own disciple. The sect master suddenly felt refreshed. He immediately promised to provide whatever she needed. Moonhan did not hesitate at all. She immediately raised her request. She hoped that the sect master could bring Blue Autumn Yun to Cloud's ascending peak. After a brief exchange between the two, She could feel that he might be the strongest among the new disciples joining the sect. Such talents should not be wasted. Sect Master helped her up. After all, the cultivation sect does not possess the method to deal with the restraint of dual variation spiritual root. He had to temporarily shelve this matter. With the cultivation sect's major examination approaching, he asked Moon Han to go back and prepare well. At the break of dawn, Blue Autumn Yun decided to immediately go back to find Elegant Ling. Upon entering, I saw the two of them moving things. Due to Ariel Mu receiving an urgent letter from Senior Sister Luo, she needs to rush over to help. After confirming that there were no issues with the luggage, Ariel Mu took out a storage ring and packed all the luggage into it. Just as she was about to leave, Little Elegant quickly reminded her that she forgot to take the money pouch. She also forgot the bellyband. Elegant Ling is somewhat speechless. She really isn't very reassured, so she suggested that Blue Autumn Yun go with her. Blue Autumn Yun did not oppose. Luling City is a transit city for the Merchant Association's trade. There must be some rare materials there. And Elegant Ling is on the verge of a breakthrough. So she decided to stay and continue to cultivate. The man summoned a sacred beast for treatment because his physical condition was too poor. In order to prevent the sacred beast from exposing its identity, he personally entered the world to search for herbs. The two of them rode on a spiritual beast and quickly arrived at the bustling Luling City Ariel Mu. As soon as they landed, she took him and ran forward. At the same time, a tall and slender-legged young woman paced back and forth at the city gate. Ariel Mu raised herself up on her tiptoes and waved when she saw Senior Sister Luo before pulling Blue Autumn Yun through the crowd. She first took the people to have fun in the city. She didn't bring them back to the Merchant Association until it was getting dark. Blue Autumn Yun didn't expect that the first senior sister turned out to be the young lady of Luo's Merchant Association. However, what really piques his curiosity is what happened in the first senior sister's family, that she hasn't returned to Verdant Mist Peak for so long. Aurelia Luo let out a soft sigh. Luling City is surrounded by abundant spiritual energy. The land is fertile and produces a variety of medicinal herbs. Over the years, Mu Province capital has gradually become a well-known city for producing Dan pills, thanks to decades of accumulation. To promote local potion refining development, the city lord organizes Dan pills competitions, offering generous rewards to attract participation from major families. Their merchant association is only at a slightly above average level. There are no particularly strong alchemists, and they only maintain an attitude of watching the potion refining competition. However, a while ago, the old man's hidden injury recurred. The renowned physician in the city told her that she urgently needed the flame spiritual fruit to prepare the prescription. And this medicinal herb happens to be the prize in this potion refining competition. She had no choice but to ask Ariel Mu for help. Don't be fooled by her love for food. She is quite adept at controlling fire attributes with her fire element spiritual root. Although her cultivation is average, she has some knowledge in potion refining. Ariel Mu proudly took out her own storage ring. She searched inside carefully. As the smoke gradually dispersed, the clothing gradually became clearer. It was a bodysuit made of thin gauze with lace trim. The design was very bold. Just looking at it made one's imagination run wild unconsciously. She was so confident that she didn't even take a glance. Aurelia Luo turned her head away, unable to look straight at it. Is this the surprise that was intended for me? I have underwear, and I don't like this type either. Upon hearing this, Ariel Mu's eyes glanced upward. Her facial expression quickly changed. A frantic roar almost toppled the roof. She quickly hid the object. She blushed and huddled in the chair. Would you believe me if I said this is not mine? Aurelia Luo waved her hand and shook her head hastily. Meanwhile, Blue Autumn Yun silently gave a thumbs-up gesture of approval. I didn't expect that the usually quiet little senior sister actually has such a wild side in her heart. Ariel Mu trembled on the side. After hesitating for a moment, she chose to be more lenient. She was wearing it to shape her figure. she said as she pulled and stretched the clothes in front of the two, showing their elasticity. When this was said, both of them were stunned. Could it be that there is still more to Ariel Mu behind the scenes with such a massive amount? Little senior sister received an urgent letter from senior sister Luo. Without saying a word, she brought all her belongings to Liling City. The next morning, Lin Luo, the steward of Luo's Merchant Association, came knocking on the door. He specially invited Ariel Mu to the backyard of the Merchant Association to prepare for potion refining. And Ariel Mu also got up early. She was well prepared. Yesterday's events were a bit embarrassing. Today I must reshape my image. I need to show off in front of everyone. Under the commands of the steward, all the household servants are busy moving things back and forth. The backyard was soon cleaned up spotlessly. Ariel Mu expressed satisfaction with it, and signaled Lin Luo to stop working. At the same time, Aurelia Luo also arrived at the backyard. She stood behind Ariel Mu with a smile. "I've been watching you the past few days. Good luck." Ariel Mu quickly took out the jade box she had prepared long ago. She turned around and handed it to Aurelia Luo, which was the gift she had prepared. Yesterday was just an accident. Aurelia Luo carefully opened the jade box. A strong medicinal fragrance gushed out from the cracks. The entire backyard was instantly filled with a scent of Dan pills. Ariel Mu explained somewhat sheepishly that Verdant Miss Peak always performs poorly in the cultivation sect's major competition. She thought of accumulating Dan pills to improve their score. So, in her spare time recently, she has been going to Dan refining. Now senior sister has encountered some trouble. She can only take it out in advance as a contingency. Lin Luo happily took the jade box. These Dan pills are enough to keep the Merchant Association running for a while. She gestured to the servants in the courtyard. Everyone understood and followed her out together. At this moment, Ariel Mu took out a worn-out alchemy cauldron from the storage ring. Blue Autumn Yun's eyes lit up instantly. She curiously examined the alchemy cauldron closely. Ariel Mu put on a robe that looked like an apron. Suddenly, a layer of crimson spiritual energy swiftly surrounded her body. Calmly and unhurriedly, she put various medicinal herbs into the alchemy cauldron. Even Aurelia Luo couldn't help but praise her. When Ariel Mu was refining potions, it was like a different person. The alchemy cauldron in front of him reached this level in just 5 years. Such talent and diligence. In terms of potion refining, there is no one in the cultivation sect who can compare to her peers. Just as the words fell, a loud bang echoed in the ears of everyone. Instantly, smoke scattered and filled the air. The furnace actually exploded. Ariel Mu walked out coughing and fanning the smoke, with a hint of black soot on her face. Aurelia Luo quickly stepped forward to express her concern. She had just praised junior brother so much. How did the furnace explode? Ariel Mu chuckled and pointed to the apron she was wearing. It was bought for her by the master, and has fireproof and heat-insulating effects. Then she quickly walked towards the alchemy cauldron, waiting for the familiar feeling to come. Ariel Mu continued to make the refining process very seriously. Ariel has undergone several baptisms in the crucible. Aurelia Luo was startled. How could it be getting more and more frequent? If the explosions continue, the courtyard may disappear. Aurelia Luo was afraid of being bombed and ran off to deal with Merchant Association affairs. Blue Autumn Yun is not afraid of explosions. His focus is on the alchemy cauldron. It can stay in little senior sister's hands for so long. This is definitely not an ordinary product. Just a second ago, she was praised for her outstanding talent. The next second, she began performing fancy furnace explosions. Little senior sister, you truly deserve it. After continuing to blast the furnace for half an hour, Ariel Mu finally entered a state. The refined herbs gradually turned into the shape of Dan pills. A moment later, a rich Dan pills fragrance emanated. The slightly warm Dan pills fell into Ariel Mu's hands. Blue Autumn Yun took over the Dan pills, which had a shiny color and a rich texture. If Mu Province capital finds out that she, at her age, can refine high-quality Dan pills, they will definitely try every means to recruit her aggressively. Soon, Ariel Mu collected these Dan pills. It seems that Blue Autumn Yun is also showing some interest in potion refining. So they quickly searched in their storage ring. Before long, belly bands and silk stockings were flying everywhere as she tossed them around. Finally, she found a thick scroll. This was the complete guide to potion refining that Fourth Elder had given her. Blue Autumn Yun blushed and held the scroll in her hands. Her eyes, however, could not help but stare at the chest band and other items on the ground. Dressed in both a maid and a chef's outfit. Amazing, truly amazing. Little senior sister does indeed have a wild side in her heart. Ariel Mu hurriedly protected a pile of clothes, warning him shyly. If you look again, I will report to Little Elegant. Blue Autumn Yun smiled awkwardly and immediately shifted his gaze to the scroll. The Dan pills are still being refined continuously. Unconsciously, he had been reading for 4 or 5 hours straight. He stood up and stretched lazily. Although the content of potion refining is extensive and complicated, for him, it has all been deeply ingrained in his mind. And at this moment, Ariel Mu is still diligently studying potion refining, while the first senior sister is nowhere to be found, busy with who knows what. Blue Autumn Yun just walked out of the backyard. I smelled a refining Dan pill's aura. Following the scent through the corridor and courtyard, I arrived in front of a building. The sign hanging on the door read, "For Ion Refining Hall," in 3 large characters. Inside, there are more than 10 alchemy cauldrons, and many alchemists are manipulating flames to refine medicinal herbs. Blue Autumn Yun looked around and finally walked towards an unoccupied alchemy cauldron. The middle-aged alchemist next to him glared at him sideways with a very arrogant tone. "You look unfamiliar. Are you a new alchemist?" Blue Autumn Yun glanced at him and calmly replied, "So what if I am not?" The middle-aged alchemist shouted loudly, "If you're not here for a reason, then get out." Lin Luo, upon hearing the commotion, hurried over. She immediately approached and asked, "What's wrong, Master Mingzhang?" And Mingzhang, relying on being the most powerful alchemist here, arrogantly tried to kick him out. Lin Luo quickly intervened to mediate. This young man is the junior brother of Miss and a distinguished guest of the Merchant Association. Mingzhang, hindered by the young lady's status, did not dare to continue to trouble further. Blue Autumn Yun was filled with anger. If Lin Luo hadn't arrived early, he would have been thrown into the furnace. The teenager was accidentally attracted by the fragrance of the medicine and arrived at the potion refining hall. But unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he was driven away arrogantly by the little people. Lin Luo hurried over when he heard the commotion. She suddenly had a headache. The 2 of them are a Missy's junior brother from the Merchant Association, honored guests. One is the highest level alchemist in the Merchant Association. It's not good to offend either of them. After hesitating for a moment, she could only lead Blue Autumn Yun to a secluded corner. She clasped her hands together and implored Blue Autumn Yun to be more accommodating. Blue Autumn Yun also didn't want to make things difficult for the junior steward. He waved his hand, telling her that she could refine wherever she wanted. Blue Autumn Yun carefully wiped the alchemy cauldron clean. But who knows that Mingzhang is like a dog, biting at whoever he catches. He can't stand even the slightest sound. Blue Autumn Yun gave him a sideways glance. A trace of spiritual energy circulated in her hand. If she wasn't afraid of causing trouble for the first senior sister, she would have thrown this guy into the furnace a long time ago. At this moment, several nearby alchemists couldn't help but be a little surprised. They were amazed to see this young man in front of them, so unskilled in his movements, yet able to produce flames directly on his first try. This remark immediately reached Mingzhang's ears. He loudly reprimanded the 2 of them. However, he still did not put Blue Autumn Yun in his eyes. Lin Luo was afraid that Mingzhang would continue to cause trouble, so she stayed here for the time being. Besides, she knew not everyone could become an alchemist. She just needed to wait for Blue Autumn Yun's fresh excitement to fade. At that time, she could comfort him and ask him to leave. After sensing the temperature of the flame, Blue Autumn Yun closed her eyes and recalled the steps of potion refining. Mind power gently moved several medicinal herbs to float above the alchemy cauldron. Then they crushed them. All of them were thrown into the furnace. Lin Luo just wanted to remind, but it was already too late. She is not an alchemist, but she does understand some basic knowledge of potion refining. It is best to refine refined herbs one after another. Focusing on the refining process is the key. It seems that this junior brother is not only inexperienced but also unaware of the most basic steps of potion refining. Under the scorching flames, several medicinal ingredients gradually begin to merge together. Soon, the shape of a Dan pill slowly emerges. Lin Luo was stunned to see that it had succeeded. It was unbelievable that so many medicinal ingredients had been successfully refined at once. The flames were very obedient under Blue Autumn Yun's control. Even his technique is elegant and beautiful. And on the other side, Ming Zhang is unaware. According to his estimation, this young man either burns the medicine to ashes or it doesn't burn at all. There is even a possibility of the occurrence of the low-level operation of the blast furnace. Just because he dared to ignore himself earlier, Ming Zhang was determined to use action to tell him. Not everyone can become an alchemist. Relying on his profound experience over the decades, a fragrant Dan pill slowly floated out. The surrounding alchemists were all attracted by the scent of the medicine. The first-rank high-quality Dan pills truly live up to Master Zhang's reputation. He is really amazing. Ming Zhang was flattered by the praise, feeling refreshed and exhilarated. He felt like he had reached the pinnacle of his life. The young man successfully refined top-ranked Dan pills on his first attempt. However, he was still subjected to strong ridicule from the alchemist. At the height of Ming Zhang's triumph, but suddenly found that Lin Luo was not looking at him. Instead, he has been focusing intently on Blue Autumn Yun. Ming Zhang crossed his arms and revealed a very mocking smile. Humph, let's see how long you can hold on. After a while, a group of alchemists also shifted their attention to Blue Autumn Yun. Even the smile on Ming Zhang's face gradually disappeared. He felt that this kid was having it a bit too easy. A few minutes later, a fresh medicinal fragrance accompanied by wisps of blue smoke wafted out from the alchemy cauldron. Blue Autumn Yun's fingers moved slightly. The Dan pills emitting a faint smoke fell into his hand.